We're not doing any configuration on the switch, so we can leave it in its default state. Again, our address space is .7.64/27. We're reserving the first 6 host addresses for static use. Our DHCP address range will therefore go from .70 through .94. Our router is going to get the first host address, .65, and we're going to use gigabit 000, so that gets .65. So that's part of the reserved address space. Excluded address space is what they call it. IP, DHCP. Now if you hit the question mark, it'll tell you what the options are. So we can specify our excluded addresses. We can also specify our pool, and once we specify our pool, then we'll go in and give it the details of that address space. Right now we're going to do excluded addresses. Excluded addresses, or address, and we're going to begin with 192.168.7.65. That's the first one. And we're going to end with 69, 192.168.7.69. So that's the excluded address space. IP, DHCP, pool, and see what comes next. We give it the name, demo pool 1. That's our DHCP pool. We're going to specify our default router, which is the default gateway that will be configured on the host machines. If we have a DNS server, we would configure that there as well. The domain name, the network itself, and the mask. Our network is this right here, .64/27, but you can't use slash notation here, side notation. You have to use guided decimal notation for the mask. So 192.168.7.64, that's our network, and the mask, and the default gateway, which is the router, default router, 192.168.7.65, and that's our DHCP configuration. Now let's look at it in the show running config. Oh, interface G000. Okay, and that completes the configuration of this router. End, show run. And now I'll let you look at this to check your configuration. Show running config. It shows us our excluded address range, our DHCP configuration. We identify the network address space and the default gateway, which is going to be the same as this router. And we've configured gigabit 000 as the interface that's on this local area network. It gets one of the static routes. Nothing else is configured on this router. Straight through cables throughout. Again, the switch is not getting any configuration, so we could just connect to any ports on the switch. Make sure you connect to G00. And we have spanning tree doing its work. What would we do? What would we configure on the switch if we didn't want to wait for these edge devices to settle out, to verify they're not switches? What would we configure on the switch? We would configure port fast, right? That would tell spanning tree you don't have to do calculations on these ports. And we would do BPDU data guard to make sure that nobody came in as a rogue switch. All right, now with each of these PCs, we have to select DHCP configuration. And when you select that radio button, it initiates the DHCP Discover process. Same thing here, PC1. IP configuration, DHCP. And so this got 70, 71. Now we're going to capture this one in the simulator. So before I select DHCP here. I'm going to go down to simulation, show all none, edit filters. I'm going to turn on DHCP under IPv4. DHCP. And these are the captures that we're going to grab. All right, so for PC2, turn on the DHCP in the edit filters. And then we'll select DHCP radio button. And you can see the process right here. And we're just going to step through this. Now we want to capture all of the packets at the switch. Okay, because the switch is inbound, outbound, doesn't matter. Just direction does matter.